Hey guys, welcome to another video with the Tungsten Wire. Thank you for joining us today. Today I want to talk about a clip that I saw from LBC's James O'Brien, where he talks to a Zionist and pro-Israel caller, talking about how the pro-Palestine marches are hate-filled marches. And then I'd like to also give my thoughts along the way. I'm going to do that type of lazy content. If you find yourself back, please, and you haven't already, please do subscribe. It does help us a lot. Give this post a like, and comment below what you think. Anyways, let's get into it without further ado and see what's going on.
Hi, James.
Hello.
I'll tell you what it is. With so much unrest and so much fear within the Jewish community, most of these pro-Palestinian protests erupt in violence. There's hate that's called out, and I think
No, they don't, because I have to be clear on this. They don't erupt in violence. There've been I think there were 9 arrests and there've been 5 charges, including people arrested for attacking. Well, I'll run you through it all. Actually, there's been a racially aggravated public order offence by a person of no fixed abode who allegedly shouted racist abuse. There's a public order offence after a can of beer was allegedly thrown at a protester in Whitehall. There's been an actual bodily harm charge after an officer was allegedly assaulted and suffered a head injury, which also happened at the Countryside Alliance March a few years ago. And then you've got another racially aggravated public order offence relating to an allegedly racist placard. And then you've got a 16-year-old boy who can't be identified because of his age, has been charged with a public order offence after directing verbal abuse at officers. So you understand I can't let you say they always erupt into violence when they categorically don't.
Well, there is a lot of hate. I mean, they're looking.
No, let's
for
not gloss over. Let's not
wearing...
gloss over it. You have to accept that you cannot say they always erupt into violence when they categorically don't.
No,
And
but there are things that that the police
if that's
won't
the basis
and can't
of
pick
your
up on.
if that's the basis of your position, then your position becomes untenable immediately.
There is hate. Would you not agree with that?
There's hate everywhere. There's hate on the West Bank at the moment. You've seen what the American Secretary of...
Can I say anything?
Yes, of course you can, as long as it's true.
When you think about the fear that Jewish people are feeling all over the country, something that exacerbates that and something that makes them feel even more scared. I mean, there are no Jewish people that would feel comfortable to go into a Palestinian protest, and even the...
So that's not true. I have been to 3 Palestinian protests this year. 2 of them were organized by Jewish groups. So that is absolutely not the case. Maybe some Zionists fall for the propaganda they're fed by right-wing news, saying that these are hate marches and they're afraid to go. But just the other day, I saw Emily Schrader. She's like some mouthpiece, British mouthpiece for Israel. She went to one of these protests, held up an Israeli flag above her head, and they just marched past her. There was no violence. There was nothing, right? I'm sure some people had some choice words to say, but words are words, right? Not always great, but she was trying to provoke a reaction, possibly a violent reaction, and it didn't happen, right? So this idea that, Jewish people are scared to go to these protests is not true. How many Jewish people have we seen get arrested at these protests by the police? Whether it's in the UK, whether it's in America, whether it's in Canada, whether it's in Germany, doesn't matter. Anyways, let's keep watching.
There were Jewish people on it. There were Jewish people on the march, and you've seen the footage from Central Station in New York as well of Jewish people protesting.
They're far extremists, and in terms of their support, their anti-Israel narrative.
So she's saying the non-Zionist, anti-genocide Jewish people are extremists, but the ones that support and defend the genocide are not the extremists. It's crazy. That's like a Muslim saying that the people who are marching against ISIS and the Taliban and Al-Qaeda are extremists, and the ones who support them are, the real Muslims. The true peaceful religion of peace Muslims. What a crazy thing to say. Just absolutely... These people are deranged. These people are deranged. And remember, when we see that, Netanyahu is paying $7,000 a post to influencers to, share debunked Hasbara for the state of Israel, it's for people like this to keep them scared, to keep them thinking that Israel is a necessity for their safety when Israel has been one of the biggest reasons anti-Semitism is on the rise. Anyways, let's keep watching.
But that it's not. But if the fact is that people would be scared to go to a protest like that, whereas in direct contrast to that, the Israeli.
But again, I'm sorry you feel I'm interrupting you, but if you say things that aren't true, I have to. There were Jewish people on the march on Saturday.
Okay, but the majority.
So they wouldn't be. You can't say they'd be scared to go, can you?
It is very scary. It is very.
No,
scary.
I'm not disputing that you're scared. I'm just disputing your claim that it always erupts into violence and that Jewish people would be too scared to attend to demonstrate their sympathy for Palestinian people being killed. Because neither of those things are true.
No, what I'm not saying is that people can't march in solidarity, but the fact is it's a protest which ends up often being anti-Israel. There were 3 women who were wearing pictures
out of 100,000 people.
So there needs to be some context here, right? For example, yes, 3 out of 100,000 people. That's not a very big sample. There are bad people everywhere, even within Gaza. The people who are being genocided. There have been ISIS-affiliated gangs that are now operating within IDF-controlled spaces. They're criminals. You know what I mean? So let me be straight. Anybody who does any type of hatred or anti-Semitism during these marches, they should be rightfully condemned. But the thing is, they found a couple of these people, and they weren't actual, they were wearing hijab, but later they found the same people who were not hijabis. They were not Muslim women, but they were what seemed to be plants. We don't know yet, but they seem to be plants. Just here in Canada, in Toronto, I believe it was, or maybe it was Quebec City, Montreal, something like that. There was a lady walking around in a keffiyeh, Sieg Heiling, and chanting Nazi and anti-Semitic slogans. She ended up getting fired from her job, or not her job, but she ended up getting in trouble and getting caught by the police and whatnot. Turns out she was a woman who owned 2 kosher cafes in a Jewish hospital. Go ahead and tell me that this woman wasn't a plant. It's so obvious. And here's the thing. We make it very clear before we go out for marches that anti-Semitism is not acceptable, is not accepted at all, no matter what. Especially because it's an absolute disrespect to a people, for sure, but to the very people who are marching alongside you. There were so many Jewish people with us. Jewish Voice for Peace was one of the main groups at the marches, right? So when you're anti-Semitic, are you not also being anti-Semitic towards them? Of course. So let me be straight. First and foremost, it's always a very small group of people. It isn't the vast majority. And there's bad apples everywhere. And second, oftentimes, they seem to be plants. Zionists are not going to like me saying that, but I mean, the evidence points to that, right? Like, come on, man.
That's not the point. The point is that
it is. Of course, it's the point.
Fear.
Of course, it's the point, because you can call those people hateful, you can call those people insightful, but you can't call the march a hate march because of what 3 women did.
There's a difference between a march and a protest rather than a vigil or like solidarity. There's a big difference.
Well, you can call it whatever you want.
With hate. No, but there is a difference. You can't dispute that.
I can dispute anything I want.
Standing peacefully in vigil and market and thinking about the people the victims, etc. And absolutely, I think no one wants.
So it's
to
the fact that they're walking.
Civilians.
It's the fact that they're walking.
It has a much angrier tone.
Because a genocide is happening. What are you talking about? Oh, have a vigil. Yeah, there are vigils. Where they stand outside and start reading the names of the victims. And it takes 12 hours before they reach, if they start from age, like newborn, to the age of 1, it takes 12 hours to get to the age of 1. That's what Israel is doing right now. Sorry, I said 12 hours. I meant 6 hours. 6 hours, sorry. It takes 6 hours and you want them to just, march, not even march. You just want them to stand in solidarity. Great. But they're marching because they want the government that is complicit in this genocide to stop funding and arming the nation committing genocide. Of course there's anger. It was so stupid. Anyways, let's keep going.
There was huge anger about all the Palestinians being killed, just as there was huge anger about all the Israelis killed on October the 7th. You must have been angry. You must have been angry.
I was devastated.
Okay.
It was heartbreaking.
Well, I was angry.
There's a very different. Well, there's a very different.
I was very, very angry. I don't know if you heard the show. I was absolutely livid.
Yeah, but what were you angry about?
The murder of 1,400 Israelis.
But was that anger directed at the horrific terrorists?
Of course it was.
Was that compassion and devastation for the victims?
It was both. Unthinkable, unjustifiable, intolerable were the words that I used to describe what Hamas had done. Heartbreaking, utterly, utterly devastating were the words that I used to describe the victims. So why can't...
Okay. I don't want to be that guy, but someone needs to step in here and remind everyone that the Hannibal Directive was used on October 7th. Yes. Hamas targeted some civilians, but the vast majority of them were killed by Israeli helicopters and fire. Also, 1,400 civilians is not true. We know that at least 32% of them of the deaths were so more than 30%. 32% is the exact percentage. Were active IDF soldiers. Now, that's not to say that it isn't horrific that civilians were killed. But what is it that Israelis say? Well, that's what happens in war or whatever. It's not a good excuse. And remember, October 7th wasn't the beginning. October 7th was the result of 75 years of oppression. And oppressed people finally rose up and resisted against their oppressors. Right? People were living on stolen land. And I'm not going to dispute that there may have been some of these Israelis living in land that they bought legally, 75, 80 years ago. That is a very big possibility. People never talk about that. People never talk about the fact that a one-state solution with a free Palestine will include Jewish people that have bought their land legally. And then those that didn't will have to pay reparations. It's just fair. Sorry. But we cannot forget that, yes, Hamas did come in, but a vast majority of the deaths were were done by Israel, and 32% of the deaths were active military members.
Why can't people be angry? Why can't people be angry about Palestinians being killed as well?
I just want to shout out that the Monday, that the first day that you did your show, was brilliant. You were really compassionate, really kind, really sensitive, absolutely.
And really angry.
Yes, but I think there's more anger. What does I mean? It's about compassion and being devastated.
And being angry.
Do something.
And being angry. So if I'm allowed to be angry about the killing of Israelis, why can't I be angry about the killing of Gazans? Why can't people march in anger at the killing of Palestinians?
It's about compassion. That's the difference.
Okay. So how do people show their...
I think he's about to get into it.
Then says, who can I fight? Anger is who can I punish?
And that's why I had to pick you up at the beginning on the claims that it always erupted into violence when it simply doesn't. So no one's really looking for a fight.
Anger.
No one's looking for a fight.
I don't mean violence I mean violence as in anger, and and that leads on to who can I blame?
What is she talking about? Well, why can't there be anger? Like I've already said, there has to be anger. A genocide is happening. The truth is, the most tragic thing in terms of for the Israelis that were killed is that Israel on October 8th commenced the genocide against the Gazan people, the Palestinians. And from then on, there has been atrocity after atrocity after atrocity after atrocity. So many damn atrocities that we've forgotten about half of them. We don't talk about the World Central Kitchen employees being targeted in 3 separate strikes and killed, right? Because they don't want them feeding Palestinians. We don't talk about that because we forget about it because there's been so many. We don't talk about the 15 ambulance EMTs who were killed and then zip tied and thrown into a mass grave. We don't talk about it because we've forgotten about it because of all the atrocities. We don't talk about the babies found in the ICU decomposing after IDF promised the doctors that they would get them to safety. Because we've forgotten about it because so many atrocities have happened. We're starting the third year today, the third year of this genocide. What are you talking about? Oh, violence, there's anger. We need to have compassion. We have compassion. That's where our anger comes from.
You can't, unfortunately. Suella Braverman might want to outlaw anger, but even she would struggle to pull that one off, Anna. You can't tell people what they can and can't be angry about any more than I would dream of telling you.
Absolutely, but we can have expectations.
Go on.
The anger then channels into anti-Israel.
Well,
that is what happens.
And then it becomes problematic. But until
Completely disagree that it's problematic. It's problematic what Israel is doing. We are allowed to be angry at Israel. We're allowed to be angry at America. We're allowed to be angry at UK for being complicit in the genocide. We're allowed to be angry at Germany. We're allowed to be angry at Canada. Despite recognizing Palestine, they still arm and fund the genocide. It's absolutely asinine to say that it's problematic to be anti-Israel. It is the moral obligation of mankind to be anti-Israel right now.
it does, it isn't.
But
and when you say anti-Israel, you could say anti-Israeli army, anti-Likud.
But that's not true.
Well, I don't know that you can read the minds of everybody.
Very interesting. I don't know if you've looked at the works of the late Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs.
I'm familiar with some of his work, yes.
He has an incredible video that he's explaining how sometimes actually anti-Zionism is the new anti-Semitism. How it's changed over from the Middle Ages.
You're going a little bit off message now.
Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism because there are anti-Zionist Jews. Palestinians are Semites. How can it be anti-Semitism? Zionism is a political movement. It's a settler colonial movement. It is a Jewish supremacist movement, right? That is not anti-Semitism. If anything, anti-Zionism is causing a rise in anti-Semitism. I'm not going to dispute that. But anti-Zionism is something that needs to end. If you want to say that modern Judaism needs to be Zionist, and I know I've had arguments with people who say that, then that's on you guys. But I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it, and all the anti-Zionist Jews that I know do not agree with it. It's a ridiculous take. Anti-Zionism is a political supremacist movement. Zionism is a political supremacist movement. It as a political supremacist movement, it is allowed to be critiqued. You are allowed to be against it. Anti-Semitism, that's a whole different story.
Because what we're talking.
Saying that it's not anti-Israel. It's also anti-Semitic.
I'm not. I'm saying you can't read anybody's mind. There are plenty of people in Israel who've got huge problems with what is going on. Are they anti-Semitic?
And that's what I believe Suella Braverman.
Are they anti-Semitic?
No, people can have issues with the policies.
People can be angry about policies, and they can be Jewish, and they can be angry with Israeli policies. But you wouldn't dream of calling them anti-Semitic.
But I haven't heard any pro-Palestinian march that's come out to condemn Hamas.
Well, how much attention have you been paying? How many of them?
Yeah, okay. They haven't condemned Hamas. I mean, they're always asked to. But I don't know if that's true. I have seen many condemnations of Hamas. The main thing for me is I don't think we bear a responsibility of condemning Hamas because we don't have anything to do with Hamas, right? If anything, we have something to do with Israel because we are taxpayers to these countries. And these countries are funding Israel. So the burden of responsibility when it comes to condemnation falls on those who are responsible. None of us are responsible for Hamas. But all of us are responsible for the governments we voted for. In a way. I mean, in true democracy we would be, but we live in a capitalist society that's not true democracy, so that's a whole different story. But yeah, this might get clipped. This might make people not like me. Whatever. I don't care. I don't think we need to condemn Hamas. People have done it. Everyone has condemned Hamas. A lot of people have, and it hasn't done anything because they still have to keep condemning Hamas. Every single message. Hamas did this, but I condemn them. Hamas did this. Oh, I condemn them. It's ridiculous. I'll leave it at that.
Them have you spoken to?
Plenty.
Really?
Yeah, it's very interesting having conversations.
But you were too frightened to attend.
An excuse.
You were too frightened to attend.
I would never go to a protest.
So when did you talk to them?
Other people.
So when did you talk to them?
I've spoken to individuals.
Yeah, when?
With their opinions.
When?
Over the last couple of weeks.
How?
And there's always an excuse.
But how have you spoken to these? How have you spoken?
Can I?
No, of course you can't. Not if you're going to come on my radio and say things that aren't true.
But it is true.
Well, of course it isn't. Every single
Ariana Grande concert.
Well, I don't want to imagine that. I'm talking about marches. No, stop it.
I feel bad for the people that were killed, but
you're making stuff up again.
Very, very frustrated.
You're making stuff up again.
No, I'm not. That's exact same parallel.
You're having an imaginary conversation about a completely different atrocity.
No, but what I'm saying to you is the fact is that there needs to be condemnation.
Just before you go, where is your expression? I know you would avail yourself of this opportunity, your compassion for the people being killed in Gaza now.
Absolutely. I said that straight away. I said that earlier on. I said, I do not want to see any innocent civilians, and it's horrific, and it's heartbreaking, and I read an article.
So would you call for it to end then?
I would call for Israel to do whatever it can to
Well, you can't have it both ways, can you?
It's called self-defense.
Okay, well, that's not called compassion then.
And they've notified
that's fine.
all the residents to move.
We got there in the end.
It is compassion. Of course there is compassion.
Well, no, because the people marching are calling for a ceasefire, and you're calling for it to continue, while claiming that, complaining that other people aren't being compassionate. So the people calling for the killing to end are the angry ones who are causing fear, and you calling for it to continue are the compassionate one. Do you see where you've ended up, Anna?
No, but Israel
you probably don't, do you?
Very, very well put by him. He's way better at this than I would ever be. Yeah, to be very clear, it's not self-defense anymore. They have destroyed civilian infrastructure. 90% of civilian homes are now rubble. They have systematically dismantled the healthcare system. And let's face it, it's now genocide, and genocide is not self-defense. And there are so many Zionists like that person that was called into that show to complain about Zionism, the marches, saying that it's not compassionate. It's not, they're hate marches, they're terror marches. When the marches themselves are asking for the hostages to be returned from both sides, right? 120, 50, I don't even know how many are left. I think there's less than 100 hostages left in Gaza. And I think all of them now are IDF soldiers, so they're actually prisoners of war now. All the hostages have been released. It's just the prisoners of war that are left. And the 10,000 Palestinian hostages, many of which are children. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there are a bunch of children who are being held in what they call administrative detention, or which is basically they're being held with no charge. I mean, I don't know what that would be other than hostages. That's what a hostage is it not? So I believe that they should be released as well. Anyways, that's it for today. I don't have a lot more to say. I do have a couple articles coming out on the Tungsten Wire. So please keep your eye out for that. Please subscribe to thetungstenwire.com if you like this type of coverage. And now I do have a spiel here that I'm supposed to read, so I'm going to read it. Support the Tungsten Wire by subscribing. It's free. We take no corporate money, no sponsorships, and no pay-to-play deals. Our work is fully independent and fueled by readers who care about honest uncompromising political commentary and journalism. Subscribing costs nothing, but helps us grow, beat the algorithm, and bring more eyes to this work. Subscribe now at tungstenwire.com. It takes a second and makes a real difference, and it's free. The YouTube is also kind of new, and so please subscribe to that. You'll see this video on YouTube. Anyways, thank you very much for joining me, and peace be upon you.